Sprinkler is a sub-weapon that's existed in the Splatoon series since the very beginning. But as of the past few years, Sprinkler has consistently been considered to be one of the worst sub-weapons in the game, receiving barely any major buffs. In the upcoming Sizzle season, we know that two very important weapons will be receiving Sprinkler as their sub-weapon, being the new S-Blaster 92 as well as the Light Tetra Dualies. So I've been thinking recently that it's about time that Sprinkler finally gets a notable buff. In this video, I'm going to talk about Sprinkler's current state and how it can be effective in a few more ways than you might think. Then I'll get into a couple ideas for how Sprinkler could be buffed to become way more useful. If you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe because it helps me out a ton. Okay, so let's discuss Sprinkler's current state in Splatoon 3. Right now, I think it's very safe to say that Sprinkler is the worst sub in the game. Yes, even worse than Angle Shooter, because Angle Shooter has actually been receiving consistent buffs, whereas Sprinkler remains untouched in this game. The way Sprinkler functions is kinda just weird on its own. So you throw it starts painting, but then after 5 seconds, the speed at which it paints slows down. And then after another short period of time, it slows down again, barely painting anything at that point. Not to mention, Sprinkler is super easy for opponents to break. It only inflicts 20 damage for every shot that hits an opponent. You can only throw out one at a time. It costs 60% of your ink tank for some reason, and the Sprinkler gets automatically destroyed if the person who deploys it dies. Seriously, how has this thing not received any buffs in the last few years? So even though Sprinkler is hot garbage, it does have a few uses. I actually made a video about this for Splatoon 2 a long time ago, which I'm showing on screen right now. I'll link the full video in the description because there's some useful information in here for people who plan to use the Light Tetra Dualies. But to sum it up, you can use Sprinkler as a distraction, you can also use it as a temporary shield to maneuver around, and of course, it helps you charge your special while you're busy fighting. The issue here is that most of these uses are very situational, and it's very hard to apply these effectively like 80% of the time. My point is, Sprinkler needs some buffs to make it more consistently useful. And trust me, there are some very easy changes Nintendo can make to the sub. Let's get into those. First and foremost, if they're gonna keep it so that your Sprinkler gets automatically destroyed when you die, you should be able to place 2 at a time. It's pretty silly how you can just throw one in a totally safe spot, but it gets destroyed in 2 seconds just because you died. Now, I think they should only let you throw 2 Sprinklers at a time if they decide to make no other changes to it. But if they do give it some other buffs, having 2 out at a time may not be necessary. Next, I think Sprinkler's different painting modes should be eliminated entirely. It's very silly that the initial fast painting mode only lasts 5 seconds, because once that's over, it barely paints anything at all. Not to mention, even with its fastest painting mode, it doesn't paint much more than a suction bomb. In my opinion, the painting speed should stay consistent for the entire time that the Sprinkler is active. So its fast painting mode should just be its only painting mode. I think that would be totally fair. Another big issue with Sprinkler is how easily enemies can destroy it. It's only a couple shots no matter what weapon you're using. Splatanas can just one-shot them, even without running Object Shredder. Speaking of Object Shredder though, we need to discuss this. Running Object Shredder will multiply your damage towards Sprinklers by 1000%. No, that's not a joke. It actually does that. So running Object Shredder on any weapon makes it instantly destroy a Sprinkler with one shot. If you just breathe on a Sprinkler, it gets destroyed. I don't know, Object Shredder isn't super common in this meta, but I still find that 1000% multiplier kinda ridiculous. It would be nice if some weapons still took a couple shots. I'm getting a little sidetracked, but I just think that overall, Sprinklers should have a bit more health, like at least double what it is right now. For a deployable sub that takes 60% of your ink tank, it should be able to have a bit more longevity. Those are just a few reasons as to how Nintendo can buff Sprinkler, but trust me, there's so many things they could do. With this upcoming patch, I really hope they realize that this sub-weapon has been long overdue for a big buff. Because right now, Sprinkler quite literally has nothing good going for it. But I do also want to hear from you guys. How would you buff Sprinkler? Would you prefer similar buffs to the ones I mentioned, or would you take a different route with it? Let me know all your thoughts down below. And with that, I'm gonna head out, so I'll see you all later.